The Force binds all things across the galaxy, connecting every living being in an invisible web of energy and intention. The dark side corrupts that connection, twisting it into hunger, domination, and suffering. But what happens when something arrives that exists beyond the Force entirely, something fueled by rage so pure and ancient that even the darkness recoils? Korriban had seen death for millennia. The Crimson Sands had drunk the blood of countless Sith acolytes who failed their trials. The Valley of the Dark Lords held tombs where ancient powers slumbered, waiting for foolish grave robbers or ambitious students to awaken them. The planet itself pulsed with dark side energy so concentrated that even orbiting the world could drive weak-minded beings to madness. But today, something new screamed across reality itself. Deep within the tomb of Darth Ragnos, Sith archaeologists had uncovered something that predated even the ancient Dark Lord's reign, a geometric crystal formation that radiated power unlike anything in their archives. When their rituals attempted to channel its energy, seeking knowledge or artifacts, they inadvertently created a beacon that pierced through dimensional barriers. On the other side, in a facility called the UAC Mars Base, experimental portal technology detected an impossible energy signature and locked onto it. The collision was instantaneous and catastrophic. Reality tore. The crystal formation exploded into white-hot fragments. The Sith archaeologists didn't even have time to scream as the dimensional rift expanded, consuming everything within 30 meters of the excavation site. Ancient stone walls melted. The Force itself recoiled from the wound in space-time, creating a null zone where precognition and Force sense simply ceased to function. When the light faded and the dimensional thunder stopped, echoing through the tomb's corridors, something stood in the crater where the ritual chamber had been. The Praetor suit's energy shield flickered, recalibrating. Helmet sensors scanned the environment, registering atmospheric composition, gravity, radiation levels. The HUD displayed warning icons as the suit's systems encountered interference from an unknown energy signature permeating the entire location. External temperature, 43 degrees Celsius. Air quality, breathable but contaminated with unusual particles. Structural analysis, ancient construction, technologically primitive. The Doomslayer's hand tightened around the super shotgun. His heads-up display showed no demonic signatures, no Argent energy traces, no hell portals manifesting. But something was here, something old and hungry. He could feel it pressing against his mind, not thoughts or voices, but a sensation like invisible hands trying to pry open his skull and pour poison directly into his brain. The Praetor suit's neural interface blocked it automatically, the same systems that protected him from demonic possession filtering out this new form of corruption. Whatever this place was, it wanted inside him, wanted to break him, twist him, use him. The Slayer's grip on his weapon tightened further. The mechanical whir of his suit's actuators seemed deafeningly loud in the sudden silence. Then he heard it. Footsteps. Multiple contacts approaching from the corridor ahead. His motion tracker lit up with 6 distinct signatures moving in formation. Not demons. Not UAC security. Something else entirely. The Sith Tomb Guardians had served for 3 centuries. Their bodies sustained through dark side alchemy and bound to eternal servitude. They had destroyed hundreds of intruders over the decades. When they sensed the disturbance in Darth Ragnos's tomb, they converged with the mechanical precision of centuries-old patterns, expecting another foolish treasure hunter or overconfident acolyte. What they found was a figure in green armor standing in impossible crater. Weapon raised, utterly still. The lead guardian raised a gauntlet hand, preparing to channel Force lightning. The Doomslayer fired first. The super shotgun's roar was deafening in the enclosed space. The lead guardian's ancient armor exploded into fragments, the concentrated blast reducing its torso to paste. Before the corpse hit the ground, the Slayer was moving, a blur of green armor and controlled violence that shouldn't have been possible for something that size. The second guardian managed to unleash Force lightning. The crackling energy struck the Praetor suit's shield, dispersing across its surface in a shower of sparks. The HUD registered the attack as unknown. Energy weapon, 47% shield. Depletion. The Slayer didn't slow. His gauntlet fist crashed into the Guardian's helmet with enough force to shatter the ancient metal and the skull beneath it. The remaining 4 Guardians attacked in concert. Centuries of coordinated tactics manifesting in perfect synchronization. Vibraswords flashed. Force powers lashed out, attempting to grip, crush, burn, and break this intruder. It didn't matter. The Doomslayer moved through them like a hurricane through paper. His chainsaw roared to life, tearing through corrupted flesh and ancient armor. The plasma rifle painted the tomb walls with superheated impacts. When one Guardian managed to get close enough to strike with its blade, the Slayer caught the weapon mid-swing, crushed the Guardian's wrist to pulp, and used its own sword to decapitate it. 15 seconds after the fight began, 6 Tomb Guardians lay destroyed. The Slayer's armor was scorched and dented, but his shield was already regenerating. His HUD registered the kills, and something familiar pulsed through his systems, that surge of energy he'd felt thousands of times before. The Argent energy absorption that made him stronger with every demon slain. Except these weren't demons. And this wasn't Argent energy. But his suit detected something being absorbed. Some form of life force or power that fed his systems nonetheless. The Doom Slayer loaded fresh shells into his shotgun and moved deeper into the tomb. Behind him, alarms began to wail as the Sith Academy's sensors finally registered the carnage. Every Force-sensitive on Korriban felt it simultaneously, a disturbance that wasn't of the light or dark, but something else entirely. Something that killed without hesitation, without corruption, without mercy. In the Academy's central spire, Overseer Harkin paused mid-lesson, his weathered face twisting with confusion. In the dark council chambers, powerful Sith lords looked up from their machinations, sensing prey or threat. In the deepest meditation chambers, ancient masters who hadn't opened their eyes in decades suddenly stirred. Something had come to Korriban, something that didn't belong to their galaxy, their understanding, or their power, and it was already hunting. If you want to see more characters enter the Star Wars galaxy, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character you'd want to see in the comments below. May the Force be with you. The Sith Academy's command center erupted into controlled chaos. Holographic displays flickered with feed from security cameras positioned throughout the Valley of the Dark Lords. Overseer Markin stood before the primary screen, his scarred face illuminated by the blue glow as he watched footage that made no sense. A single armored figure moved through Darth Ragnos's tomb like a force of nature. Not with the elegant brutality of a trained Sith warrior. Not with the Force-enhanced acrobatics of a Jedi. This was something primal and efficient, every movement calculated for maximum lethality. Every shot precisely placed. Every kill executed with mechanical perfection. Replay the thermal footage from Sector 7, Markin commanded. The hologram shifted, showing heat signatures. The armored figure registered at normal human body temperature. But the weapon discharges created thermal blooms that exceeded anything in their database. When the intruder killed the Tomb Guardians, there was a momentary energy transfer, something flowing from the corpses into the armor itself. It's feeding on them, whispered Acolyte Kira, a promising student who'd been assigned to monitor duty. Like a predator, or a Sith learning to drain life force, Markin countered, though his tone suggested he didn't believe his own words. Has it attempted communication? None, Overseer. It hasn't spoken, hasn't responded to our warning broadcasts. It just, Kira, gestured at the screen where the armored figure was methodically clearing another chamber. It just kills everything that approaches it. Markin watched the intruder pause at an intersection, scanning both corridors before selecting a path that led deeper into the tomb complex. Not toward the exit, not toward the academy, toward the inner sanctum where the most dangerous guardians resided, ancient Sith spawn and alchemically enhanced creatures that even experienced acolytes avoided. It's hunting, Markin realized. Send word to Darth Arctis. Tell him we have a situation that requires Dark Council attention. 3 levels below the command center. In the Academy's training halls, the mood was different. Excitement, anticipation, the kind of bloodlust that came naturally to those who embraced the dark side. Finally, something interesting. Darth Scythe laughed, his cybernetic eye whirring as it focused on the distant tombs. The young Sith Lord, barely 30 and already commanding his own training. Cadre radiated eager violence. How long has it been since something actually challenged us on Korriban? Years? Decades? His students, a group of 12 advanced acolytes, murmured agreement. They'd all felt the disturbance, all sensed something powerful and alien moving through the valley. For students raised on stories of ancient Sith trials and legendary battles, this was an opportunity. Master Scythe, one of the acolytes, ventured. A Zabrak named Kral. Permission to investigate? If this intruder possesses unique abilities, we could claim whatever power it holds for ourselves. Scythe finished, his grin widening. Yes, that's exactly what we're going to do. The Doomslayer's motion tracker pinged constantly now. Dozens of contacts converging on his position from multiple directions. His HUD identified different signature types, some similar to the Guardians he'd already eliminated, others reading as purely biological but radiating that same corrupting energy. His suit filtered out. He stood in a vast chamber lined with sarcophagi, each one carved with alien script that his translator couldn't decipher. The architecture suggested purpose. This was a place of reverence or perhaps imprisonment. Either way, everything here felt hostile. The very air pressed against him with malicious intent. A sarcophagus lid exploded outward. The Sith spawn that emerged was 3 meters of twisted muscle and dark side corruption, its multiple arms ending in claws that could rend durasteel. It roared, a sound that would have paralyzed most beings with primal fear. The Slayer fired. The spawn's head vaporized in a cloud of superheated gore. He was already moving to the next target before the body collapsed. More sarcophagi burst open. The spawn had been sleeping here for centuries, their unnatural hibernation sustained by dark side rituals. Now they sensed prey, or perhaps a threat worthy of their ancient hunger. 6 of them converged on the armored intruder, their movements inhumanly fast despite their size. The chamber became a slaughterhouse. The Slayer's combat shotgun boomed in rapid succession, each blast tearing fist-sized holes through corrupted flesh. When one spawn got close enough to strike, he dodged with impossible speed. His Predator suits enhanced reflexes, allowing him to move between those raking claws, and drove his chainsaw up through the creature's torso from groin to skull. Dark ichor sprayed across ancient stone as the weapon's teeth screamed through bone and tissue. Another spawn tried to flank him. The BFG 9000 emerged from his weapon selector with a mechanical hum. The chamber filled with green light. The massive plasma sphere struck the spawn's center mass and exploded, tendrils of energy arcing to every other creature in the room. 4 spawn died simultaneously, their bodies convulsing as the Argent energy weapon reduced them to smoking husks. The final spawn hesitated, the first sign of intelligence the Slayer had seen from these creatures. It backed away, perhaps recognizing predator from prey for the first time in its existence. The Slayer's answer was his super shotgun. The glory kill was almost merciful compared to what he'd done to the others. His HUD displayed the kill count: 47 hostile entities eliminated since arrival. Shield integrity, 83%. Ammunition reserves, adequate. Status, operational. The motion tracker showed new contacts approaching fast. These were different, smaller, faster, moving with tactical precision rather than mindless aggression. The Doomslayer loaded fresh shells and waited. When Darth Scythe and his acolytes entered the chamber, they expected to find a powerful warrior perhaps catching their breath, surrounded by carnage. What they found was something standing perfectly still in a lake of blood and gore. Weapon raised, posture suggesting absolute readiness despite the massacre around it. Impressive, Scythe said, letting his voice carry across the chamber. He kept his hand away from his lightsaber, for now. You've killed more spawn in 5 minutes than most acolytes manage in their entire trials. I am Darth Scythe, and I would know what you are. The armored figure didn't respond, didn't lower its weapon, didn't move at all, except for the slight turn of its helmet tracking each acolyte's position. Can it even understand us? Kral whispered. Scythe extended his force sense, trying to read the intruder's emotions, intentions, or thoughts. He encountered something that made him flinch, not a mind, exactly, but a sensation of infinite rage compressed into absolute focus, like staring into a sun made of pure wrath. It understands, Scythe said slowly. It simply doesn't care. He decided to try a different approach. Scythe gestured at the carnage. You are clearly a warrior of exceptional skill. Korriban is the academy world of the Sith Empire, those who embrace power through passion and strength. You've demonstrated both. Join us. Train. Learn our ways. Whatever brought you here, we can offer you purpose. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the armored figure's weapon rose, targeting Scythe's center mass. The message was clear. So be it, Scythe snarled, his lightsaber igniting in a blaze of crimson. Acolytes, take it alive if possible. Dead if necessary. Its armor and weapons will serve us regardless. The 12 acolytes ignited their own training sabers and spread out in a coordinated assault pattern. They'd trained for years for moments like this. Each one was force-sensitive, enhanced beyond human limits, deadly with blade and power. The Doomslayer had fought Hell's armies for eons. 12 students with laser swords were not going to slow him down. The acolytes moved with the coordinated precision that came from years of brutal training. They'd learned to fight as a unit, to use the force to anticipate each other's movements, to overwhelm opponents through synchronized strikes and combined force powers. Against a single target, even one as dangerous as this armored intruder appeared to be, they should have had overwhelming advantage. Should have. The Doomslayer's combat shotgun barked twice in rapid succession. 2 acolytes, a human woman and a Twi'lek male, died before they'd closed half the distance, their chest cavities exploding outward as the precision slugs found gaps in their inadequate armor. The Slayer was already moving as he fired, his enhanced speed carrying him laterally across the chamber in a trajectory that broke their formations. Assumed vector. Krall thrust out his hand, unleashing force lightning. The crackling energy struck the Praetor suit's shield, draining it by another 30%. But the Slayer didn't even slow. He charged directly into the attack, absorbed 3 more seconds of lightning. That would have reduced a normal being to a charred husk, and closed to melee range. The Zabrak barely had time to register his shock before the armored gauntlet caught him by the throat, lifted him off his feet, and slammed him into the stone floor with enough force to crack both skull and ancient flagstones. The Slayer's boot came down next, crushing Krall's chest cavity like an eggshell. Spread out, Darth Scythe roared, his own lightsaber flashing as he moved to engage. Don't cluster, use the terrain. The remaining 9 acolytes scattered, using the sarcophagi and stone pillars for cover, trying to set up crossfire positions. One of them, a tactical prodigy named Vesa, attempted to use force push to knock the intruder off balance. The telekinetic shove struck the Slayer's armor and dispersed harmlessly. Whatever technology comprised, that suit either weighed far more than it appeared or possessed inertial dampeners that countered force manipulation. The Slayer's response was his plasma rifle. Blue-white bolts streaked across the chamber, superheating the stone pillar Vesa had chosen for cover. She dove away, but not fast enough. The follow-up shot caught her in the leg, and she went down screaming as plasma melted through flesh and bone. Scythe used the distraction to close, his cybernetic eye calculating attack vectors, while his organic one tracked the intruder's movements through the force. He was fast, faster than any non-force user should be, but Scythe was a Sith Lord. He'd killed Jedi Knights. He'd survived assassination attempts from rivals who'd studied his fighting style for years. His lightsaber came in low, aiming for the joint between armor plates at the hip. The crimson blade should have severed the leg entirely. The Doomslayer's gauntlet caught the lightsaber blade mid-strike. The Praetor suit's energy shield flared white-hot as it absorbed the plasma edge. Alarms screaming across the HUD. The shield dropped to 12%, but it held long enough for the Slayer to wrench the weapon aside and deliver a devastating headbutt that shattered Scythe's cybernetic eye and sent the Sith Lord staggering backward, blood streaming down his face. Scythe gathered the force and unleashed it in a focused wave of pure telekinetic power, the kind of attack that could crush bones and rupture organs. The Slayer was driven back 3 steps, his boots leaving gouges in the stone floor, but he didn't fall, didn't break, just raised his super shotgun and fired. Scythe's force barrier caught the blast an inch from his face. The pellets hung suspended in the air, frozen by telekinetic power. before dropping harmlessly to the ground. Impressive weapon, the Sith Lord gasped, wiping blood from his ruined eye. But you're not the only one who refuses to die. The remaining acolytes regrouped behind their master. 7 of them now, forming a semicircle. They'd learned their lesson about frontal assaults. Now they attacked with force powers from multiple angles: lightning, telekinesis, even attempts at mental domination. That crashed uselessly against whatever protected the intruder's mind. The Slayer's shield was depleted. His HUD registered minor damage to several armor plates. Ammunition reserves at 63%. By any tactical assessment, he was outnumbered and surrounded by hostiles with abilities his weapons weren't optimized to counter. He switched to the chainsaw. The roar of the weapon echoed through the chamber like a promise of violence. The Slayers surged forward, and the acolytes learned what terror felt like. Their training had prepared them for lightsaber duels, for force combat, for the political backstabbing that defined Sith culture. Nothing had prepared them for someone who fought like this, with absolute commitment to violence, with zero hesitation, with movements that seemed to anticipate their force-enhanced reflexes. An acolyte tried to use force speed to dodge. The chainsaw caught him mid-leap, tearing through his torso in a spray of gore. Another attempted to block with his lightsaber. The plasma blade met the spinning teeth in a shower of sparks. And for a moment, they were deadlocked. Then the Slayer's other hand came up holding the combat shotgun, pressed against the acolyte's chest, and fired point-blank. Scythe watched 3 more of his students die in as many seconds and made a decision that would have shamed him under different circumstances. He ran, not fleeing, retreating. There was a difference. He sprinted toward the chamber's secondary exit, force speed carrying him across the blood-soaked floor while he triggered his communicator. Command center, this is Darth Scythe. The intruder has eliminated my cadre. I repeat, full combat response required. Send. The Slayer's shoulder-mounted equipment launcher fired. The frag grenade struck the wall above Scythe and detonated, bringing down a section of ancient architecture. The Sith Lord threw up a force barrier at the last second, catching most of the falling stone, but the concussive force still threw him forward, and he tumbled through the doorway in an undignified sprawl. Behind him, the last 2 acolytes died quickly. The chamber fell silent except for the software of the Praetor, suit systems, and the drip of blood from the Doom Slayer's armor. His HUD updated, 60 hostile entities eliminated, multiple alert signatures converging on his position from the surface structure. Estimated time to contact, for minutes. The Slayer reloaded his weapons, walked over to where Darth Scythe's lightsaber had fallen, and examined it briefly. The weapon radiated that same corrupting energy as everything else on this world. He crushed it beneath his boot and moved toward the exit Scythe had taken. 3 kilometers away, in the Academy's medical wing, Darth Scythe stumbled through the doors with a broken cybernetic eye, cracked ribs, and 12 dead students weighing on his reputation. Overseer Markin was there immediately, his expression carefully neutral. Report, Markin demanded. It killed them all, Scythe rasped, accepting a colto patch from a medical droid. Force powers are minimally effective. Lightsabers barely penetrate its armor. It fights like nothing I've ever encountered. No wasted movement. No hesitation, no fear. And it's strong. Physically strong enough to match force-enhanced strikes. Lord Arctis is en route from the Dark Council chambers, Markin said. He'll want a full briefing. Tell Arctis to bring an army, Scythe replied, slumping into a medical chair. One Sith Lord isn't going to be enough for this thing. In the command center, security feeds tracked the armored figure as it emerged from the tomb complex into the crimson daylight of Korriban's surface. Every acolyte in the academy watched the screens. Some saw opportunity, a chance to prove themselves by defeating whatever this intruder was. Others, wiser or more cautious, saw something else. They saw what happened when you encountered something that didn't care about the Force, didn't respect Sith philosophy, and couldn't be corrupted or controlled. Something that existed outside their understanding of power. The Doomslayer stood in the Valley of the Dark Lords, his armor scorched and dented but his posture unbroken, and scanned the massive structure of the Sith Academy in the distance. His HUD identified it as the primary concentration of hostile signatures, hundreds of them, all radiating that same corrupting energy. Where there were enemies, there was a fight. and fighting was what he did best. He began walking toward the academy, and every Sith on Korriban felt it, a disturbance that wasn't of the light side or the dark side, but something that transcended their binary understanding of the Force, an intent so pure and focused it cut through precognition like a blade, the intent to kill everything between him and whatever passed for hell in this place. Darth Arctis arrived at the academy in a personal shuttle that radiated dark side energy like a miniature sun, where other Sith lords cultivated fear through physical prowess or political manipulation. Arctis had mastered something older and far more insidious, Sith sorcery. His gaunt frame and pale skin spoke to decades spent in meditation chambers, his body sustained by the Force, while his mind delved into knowledge that had driven lesser beings to madness. He swept into the command center like a wraith, his black robes trailing behind him, and the assembled overseers and acolytes reflexively stepped back. Even among Sith, there were hierarchies of fear. "Show me," Arctis commanded, his voice dry as Korriban's ancient dust. The holographic display shifted to live feed. The armored intruder had covered a third of the distance from the valley to the academy proper, moving at a steady pace that suggested infinite endurance. Bodies marked his path, acolytes who'd grown overconfident or been ordered to delay the advance. None had lasted more than seconds. 73 confirmed kills, Overseer Markin reported. No communication attempts. No hesitation. It's heading directly for the main structure. Arctis studied the figure with eyes that had witnessed centuries of violence. Its armor bears no Force signature. Its weapons operate on principles outside our understanding. And yet, he extended his senses, reaching out across the distance to touch the intruder's presence. What he found made him smile, a cold expression devoid of humor. "It has no Force presence whatsoever," Arctis whispered. "Not light, not dark, not even the neutral emptiness of the Force blind. This creature exists in a void. Do you understand what that means? That our powers won't affect it?" Scythe ventured, his face still bandaged from the medical droid's work. "That it doesn't exist in the Force," Arctis corrected. "Every living thing in our galaxy is bound to it, connected through invisible threads. This thing has no threads. It is." He paused, searching for words. Something that should not be possible. A walking contradiction. "Can you stop it?" Markin asked. Arctis's smile widened. "I don't intend to stop it, Overseer. I intend to claim it." The Doom Slayer's motion tracker showed 32 signatures ahead, arranged in defensive formations behind barricades and fortified positions. They'd had time to prepare, to set up overlapping fields of fire, to position their strongest warriors at choke points, to mine the approach with thermal detonators. He didn't slow down. The first turret emplacement opened fire when he came into range. Blaster bolts, dozens per second, hammered into his armor. His shield regenerated to 40%, absorbed the onslaught, and failed again. Warning lights cascaded across his HUD, armor integrity down to 73%. Multiple penetrations on non-critical areas. The Slayer's response was the BFG 9000, the massive green sphere of Argent energy. Plasma screamed across the distance and struck the barricade. The explosion vaporized the turret, the 3 acolytes manning it, and the stone fortification they'd hidden behind. Energy tendrils arced to nearby defenders, stopping their hearts in their chests or cooking them inside their armor. The defensive line broke immediately. The survivors scattered, training forgotten in the face of a weapon that seemed to violate every principle of physics they understood. The Slayer pressed forward, his super shotgun making short work of those too slow to retreat. He vaulted over a barricade, landed in the middle of a group of 5 acolytes trying to regroup, and demonstrated why close quarters was where he truly excelled. Gauntlet fists shattered skulls. His chainsaw cut through a Zobrik's midsection, so fast the body didn't register it was dead for 3 seconds. When 2 acolytes tried to flank him with vibroblades, he caught both weapons simultaneously, snapped them like twigs, and used the broken shards to kill their wielders. The Academy's main entrance loomed ahead, a massive structure carved into Korriban's bedrock, guarded by statues of ancient Sith lords whose stone eyes seemed to track his approach. The doors were sealed, blast-rated durasteel that could withstand orbital bombardment. The Slayer planted a remote detonator, backed away 15 meters, and triggered it. The explosion tore the doors off their hinges and sent them tumbling inward. Alarms wailed throughout the academy, in training halls and meditation chambers, dormitories and libraries. Every Sith stopped what they were doing. The sanctity of their stronghold, maintained for thousands of years, had been violated. The Doomed Slayer entered the Sith Academy, and the killing truly began. The entrance hall was a cathedral of dark side architecture, vaulted ceilings, supported by pillars carved with ancient script, walls decorated with murals depicting Sith triumphs, floors polished smooth by millennia of footsteps. It could have held 500 beings comfortably. 50 Sith acolytes and a dozen overseers waited inside, arranged in a killing field configuration. They'd studied the security footage, seen how the intruder fought, prepared countermeasures. The instant the armored figure crossed the threshold, they attacked as one. Force lightning from 12 sources converged on him simultaneously. The air itself crackled with dark side energy as enough electricity to power a small city coursed through the Slayer's armor. His shield collapsed instantly. The Praetor's suit systems screamed warnings as energy overloaded circuits and melted through insulation. But the Slayer had fought Hell's generals in environments where reality itself was hostile. Pain was data. Damage was temporary. Rage was eternal. He charged into the lightning. The overseers, expecting the intruder to fall or at least be slowed, had seconds to register their mistake before he was among them. The combat shotgun fired at point-blank range. The barrel actually pressed against one overseer's chest when the trigger pulled. The Slayer's fist drove through another overseer's force barrier and the ribcage behind it with equal ease. The coordinated assault dissolved into chaos. Acolytes scattered or pressed forward depending on their personality, some seeking glory, others recognizing futility. Those who ran died from behind. Those who fought died from the front. The mathematics were simple and brutal. A female overseer named Yasha, veteran of 100 duels, managed to land a clean lightsaber strike across the Slayer's back. The plasma blade carved through, damaged armor plating, and scored the reinforced mesh beneath. Warnings flooded the HUD, structural integrity compromised. Environmental seal breached Sector 7, backup systems engaged. The Slayer turned, caught Yasha's wrist mid-follow-up strike, and broke her arm in 3 places. When she screamed and tried to summon the force for one final attack, he drove her own lightsaber through her skull. The entrance hall fell silent. Bodies lay everywhere. 53 more kills added to his count. His armor was heavily damaged now, sparking in places where the lightning had welded systems together, trailing smoke from overheated power cells. His shield generator was offline, ammunition reserves at 41%, but he was operational, and there were more enemies ahead. The Slayer reloaded and advanced deeper into the academy. In the command center 3 levels above, Overseer Markin watched the carnage with something approaching awe. It's not stopping. Why isn't it stopping? Because that's what it is, Darth Arctis said softly. He'd been observing the entire battle, studying every movement, every kill, every tactical decision. Not a warrior, not a conqueror, a weapon that thinks just enough to kill more efficiently. He turned away from the screens, his decision made. Seal the lower levels. Evacuate all non-essential personnel. And bring me the holocron of Darth Andedu, the one we recovered from the Korriban archives last season. My lord, that holocron contains knowledge of essence transfer and dark side binding rituals. Markin protested. Using it is necessary. Arctis interrupted. This creature cannot be killed by conventional means. But everything that exists can be bound. If I can trap its essence, imprison its consciousness in a suitable vessel, then we possess something truly unique. Imagine a being of pure destruction, enslaved to the Sith Empire's will. And if you fail, Arctis's smile was cold enough to freeze blood. Then you'll die, I'll die, and this entire academy will become a tomb. But we are Sith. We do not achieve power by avoiding risk. The Doom Slayer fought his way through training halls where students tried to use combat forms perfected over centuries, through meditation chambers where ancient masters emerged from years of seclusion to protect their sanctum, through libraries where Sith knowledge was preserved and defended by automated security systems and alchemically enhanced guardians. Each level was a new battlefield. Each chamber held new enemies. And none of it mattered. His armor was failing. He'd taken hits that would have killed baseline humans 20 times over. His HUD flickered intermittently, damaged systems providing unreliable data. His Argent energy reserves were depleting faster than kills could replenish them. But he'd fought through hell itself. He'd killed the Titan. He'd waged war across dimensions. These robed sorcerers with their laser swords and lightning hands were dangerous. Yes, deadly to most beings in this galaxy, certainly. But he was the Doomslayer. And nothing, not demons, not gods, not the dark side of any mystical energy field, would stop him from completing his mission. The mission: survive. Find the threat. Eliminate it. Everything in this place was a threat. He reached the central chamber where Darth Arctis waited, surrounded by ritual circles carved into ancient stone, holding a pyramidal device that radiated power unlike anything else the Slayer had encountered here. The old Sith Lord's eyes gleamed with anticipation. "Welcome," Arctis said, his voice echoing in the vast space. "You've killed 187 of my brothers and students. An impressive count. But your rampage ends now. Not with your death. That would be wasteful. With your enslavement." The ritual circles began to glow with crimson light. The holocron pulsed in Arctis's hands. And the Doom Slayer realized that this enemy, this frail, ancient creature, was somehow more dangerous than all the others combined. The duel began. The ritual circles blazed brighter, and Darth Arctis began to chant in a language that predated the Republic, the tongue of the ancient Sith purebloods, words that resonated with dark side power accumulated over millennia. The air itself thickened, becoming viscous and hostile. Reality bent around the holocron in his hands. As the essence transfer ritual began to take shape, the Doom Slayer raised his combat shotgun and fired. The slug stopped 3 meters from Arctis, suspended in the air by telekinetic power. But unlike Darth Scythe's desperate defensive barrier, this was different, surgical, precise, requiring only a fraction of the old Sith Lord's concentration. Arctis had spent 2 centuries mastering the Force. He didn't need wild displays of power. He needed control. "Kinetic weapons," Arctis murmured, still chanting between words. "Effective against lesser Sith who rely on physical prowess. Useless against a master of sorcery." The Slayer switched to his plasma rifle. The superheated bolts screamed across the chamber and met the same invisible wall, dispersing into harmless energy. His HUD calculated trajectory angles, searching for gaps in the barrier. Found none. The old Sith had positioned himself at the chamber's center, surrounded by concentric ritual, circles that created overlapping fields of dark side energy. This wasn't a conventional duel. This was a trap that had been activated the moment the Slayer entered. Arctis's chanting intensified. The ritual circles pulsed in sequence, each one triggering the next in a cascade that built toward a singular purpose. The holocron of Darth Endedu contained knowledge of essence transfer, the ability to rip a consciousness from its body and imprison it within an object or transfer it to another vessel. Usually, this required the victim's willing participation or at least their defeat through conventional means. But Arctis had adapted the ritual. He didn't need the intruder's consent. He just needed it contained long enough for the binding to take hold. The chamber's walls began to glow with Sith script that hadn't been visible before, ancient words of power carved into the stone itself, waiting dormant for centuries until activated by a master sorcerer. The entire room was a focusing array, designed to channel and concentrate dark side energy for exactly this kind of ritual. The Doom Slayer felt it immediately, pressure against his armor, against his skin, trying to reach inside and grip something essential. His Predator suit's neural interface detected the intrusion and blocked it, the same systems that protected him from demonic possession fighting this new form of assault. But this was different from demonic corruption. This wasn't trying to twist him or control him. It was trying to extract him. Arctis saw the resistance and smiled through his chanting. "Fascinating. Your armor protects your mind, even from essence manipulation. But armor can be broken." He gestured, and the suspended ammunition, bullets, plasma bolts, even the fragments from a frag grenade the Slayer had fired, reversed direction. Everything the Slayer had shot at him for the past 30 seconds came flying back at triple the velocity, propelled by telekinetic force and dark side enhancement. The impacts hammered the Doom Slayer's already damaged armor. His shield was still offline. Plates cracked. The scorched section where Yasha's lightsaber had cut through buckled further. His HUD registered critical. Damage to the right shoulder actuator and complete. Failure of the environmental seal on his left leg. He didn't fall, didn't retreat. Instead, he holstered his ranged weapons and drew the crucible blade. The energy sword ignited with a sound like reality tearing. Argent energy, pure, concentrated. The power source that had fueled his crusade across hell. Itself manifested as a burning red blade that cast crimson light across the chamber. For the first time since the battle began, Darth Arctis's expression showed something other than cold confidence. What? What is that? The old Sith's force senses recoiled from the weapon. It wasn't dark side energy, but it resonated with something similar, power drawn from suffering, from conquest, from domination, yet purified somehow, transformed into a tool rather than a corruption. The Slayer charged. Arctis's telekinetic barrier met the crucible blade and shattered like glass. The Argent energy cut through Force constructs as easily as it cut through Hell's armor. The old Sith's eyes, widened in genuine shock, he'd never encountered anything that could simply ignore centuries of accumulated power. He abandoned the binding ritual and shifted to direct combat, channeling the dark side through his body in ways that would have killed anyone who hadn't spent a lifetime preparing. Force lightning erupted from both hands, not the wild unleashing that acolytes favored, but focused beams that cut like lasers. The Slayer's damaged armor took the hits directly, systems failing one after another as electricity found every weakness and exploited it. But the Slayer had crossed dimensions to reach demons that commanded Hell's legions. Pain was irrelevant. System failures were obstacles to work around. He closed the distance through sheer determination. The crucible blade raised. Arctis threw everything he had into one final attack, a force scream that shattered the ancient stone pillars, a telekinetic wave that would have crushed tank armor, and a burst of dark side energy that aged everything it touched by decades. The combined assault should have reduced the intruder to dust. The Doom Slayer's armor finally broke. Plates fell away, servos snapped, the helmet's HUD went dark. But underneath, the man remained, muscles honed by endless combat, will forged in Hell's fires, purpose absolute and unyielding. The crucible blade took Darth Arctis through the chest. The old Sith Lord gasped, looking down at the burning energy protruding from his sternum. His hands grasped the blade, dark side energy trying to push it out. But the Argent energy didn't care about the force. It simply was, and it was ending him. Impossible, Arctis whispered. 200 years of study, power enough to challenge the Dark Council, and I fall to something that doesn't even understand what I am. The Slayer pulled the blade free. Arctis collapsed, his body already beginning to wither as the dark side that had sustained it for so long fled the mortal shell. The holocron clattered from his lifeless hands and rolled across the floor, its crimson glow fading. The ritual circles went dark. The pressure against reality ceased. The chamber was just a room again, scarred, broken, filled with the ozone stench of force lightning and the metallic smell of blood. The Doom Slayer's armor was ruined beyond field repair. His HUD was completely offline. Several weapons were damaged or depleted. According to any reasonable assessment, he should find a defensible position and attempt to salvage equipment or locate an exit. Instead, he picked up what remained of his arsenal and continued deeper into the academy. In the command center, the remaining overseers watched their greatest defensive asset die in seconds. Watched the intruder emerge from the ritual chamber and begin methodically clearing the upper levels. The academy's population had been reduced from 800 to less than 300. Every master-level Sith was either dead or had fled to their personal ships. "We need to evacuate," Overseer Markin said quietly. "This isn't a battle we can win." The junior overseer beside him, a young woman named Vera who'd been too inexperienced to join the fighting, stared at the screens. "What is it?" "Every text, every holocron, everything the Sith have learned about combat and force philosophy. None of it matters to that thing. It's something from outside," Markin replied. "Outside our galaxy, outside our understanding, outside the force itself. And that's why we can't beat it." Because everything we know how to fight exists within a framework, light and dark, physical and force-based, emotion and logic. That thing operates on a completely different framework, one where the only rule is violence. He activated the evacuation order. Throughout the academy, surviving Sith gathered what they could carry and fled to the landing pads. Ancient texts were abandoned. Holocrons were left behind. Knowledge accumulated over millennia was sacrificed for the simple goal of survival. Because staying meant death. And they'd all seen enough death today. The Doom Slayer reached the Academy's pinnacle chamber, a meditation room, reserved for Dark Council members, where the dark side concentrated most intensely. The walls were lined with artifacts, Sith swords, ancient armor, fragments of the original Sith Empire. A viewport showed Korriban's barren landscape stretching to the horizon. He was alone. His motion tracker, barely functional, showed no more hostile signatures in range. The building was empty except for corpses. The mission parameters were unclear. There was no demon presence here. No hell portals to close. No UAC installations to purge. Just a planet full of hostile entities that radiated corrupting energy and fought with abilities his armor wasn't designed to counter. But they'd attacked him first, tried to kill him, enslave him, use him as a weapon. And there was only one response the Doomslayer knew to give to such aggression. He planted the last of his remote detonators throughout the upper levels, set them to a 30-minute delay, and began walking toward what his suit's damaged sensors identified as a landing platform. If there were ships, there might be a way off this world. If not, he'd continue fighting until something finally managed to kill him. That's what he did. That's what he was. An eternal warrior. A walking apocalypse. The thing demons feared. And now, the thing the Sith would fear too. 30 minutes later, the Sith Academy's upper structure collapsed in a series of precisely timed explosions. Ancient spires that had stood for 4,000 years crumbled into rubble. Meditation chambers where Dark Lords had plotted galactic conquest became tombs. The Valley of the Dark Lords gained one more ruin to its collection. From orbit, the few Sith who'd escaped watched through their ship's sensors. They saw the destruction of their academy, saw their heritage reduced to dust, and they understood something that would reshape Sith philosophy for generations to come. Power was not absolute. The dark side was not supreme. There existed forces in the universe that didn't care about the Force at all, forces that couldn't be corrupted, controlled, or comprehended. Forces that simply destroyed until nothing remained. One ship, however, tracked a different sensor reading. A small vessel, clearly not of Sith design, launching from the Academy's lower hangars. The pilot, an acolyte named Kira who'd survived by hiding rather than fighting, watched it accelerate toward orbit. "Command, this is Scout 7, she transmitted. "The intruder is leaving Korriban. It's acquired a ship. Let it go," came the response. From the senior overseer, who'd taken command after Markin's death. "Let it leave this sector, this system, this entire region of space. And pray to whatever dark powers still listen that it never comes back." The Doomslayer's stolen Sith shuttle limped through hyperspace, its navigation computer displaying star charts for a galaxy he didn't recognize. Behind him, Korriban was a fading memory, just another battlefield, another victory, another world that had learned what happened when it threatened him. He didn't understand the politics of this place, didn't know about Jedi or Sith, Republic or Empire, light or dark. Those distinctions were meaningless to him. There were only two categories that mattered: threats and non-threats. Korriban had been a threat. Now it wasn't. His armor was destroyed, barely holding together through emergency repairs heat, jury-rigged with parts from the ship. His weapons were depleted or damaged. His Argent energy reserves were dangerously low. By any metric, he was compromised. But he'd survived worse. And he would survive this. Somewhere in this galaxy, there would be more enemies, more threats, more beings that thought power gave them the right to dominate or destroy. And when he found them, when they inevitably found him, he would do what he always did: fight, kill, survive, repeat. The Sith had learned this lesson at the cost of their greatest academy and 200 warriors. Other factions would learn it too, in time. The Doomslayer didn't need the Force, didn't need destiny or prophecy or grand philosophical frameworks. He just needed targets. And in a galaxy torn by eternal conflict between light and dark, Targets were the one resource that would never run out. Behind him, across the Sith Empire's communication networks, a new legend began to spread, whispered in meditation chambers and training halls, recorded in holocrons as a warning to future generations. The story of the day something came to Korriban that the dark side couldn't corrupt, the Force couldn't stop, and the Sith couldn't defeat. A warrior in green armor, a weapon in mortal form, a reminder that the galaxy was far larger and far more dangerous than even the Sith had imagined. They would call him many things in the years to come: demon, monster, the unconquerable, the Void Walker. But none of those names mattered to him. He was the Doomslayer, and his war was eternal,